the flow of my presentation. So we will talk for a few minutes about Deutsche Wingard, and then we will come. So in any of my presentation, I always come from the basics, from the root, and then talk more about the crux of today's topic. So therefore, here also I start introducing my institute, and then broadly about the global warming, greenhouse gas effects, and so the basic reason why we want to move to renewables. So that's where this topic of global warming and stuff comes in. Then we have what are the available renewable energy sources, and then we will jump more into wind energy. And coming to wind, we will look at the concepts, the history, and a little bit about the statistics about today's installation capacity worldwide and in India. And then come to the wind energy application, technology, designing of wind turbines, and then the electronics part, how electronics plays a role in the field of wind energy engineering, which is about wind turbine control systems, wind farm operations, SCADA systems, condition monitoring. So these are the areas where really electronics is playing role. These two main areas. And then finally, I will also share few slides where you can see about what are the recent developments that is happening in the field of wind energy. So this way, you will get introduced to the overall wind energy sector as well as the avenues where electronics engineers really have a potential to play with. And Dr. Rajan is really an expert in the field of MPPT, so which is also a very important aspect in the field of renewable energy harvesting, especially when it comes to solar and the direct drive wind generators. MPPT plays a major role. So of course I cannot talk more about MPPT and all that stuff because I am not from that domain, but just telling about the expertise of Dr. Rajin. Yeah, here this is Deutsche Wingard, and these are the areas in which we function. So we are a 20-year-old wind energy consulting firm based out of Germany, and recently we started the Indian operations 2 years back. So these are the areas where we work largely. One is the wind tunnel center. We have a consulting division. We have a site assessment division. We have technical inspections and management. We work for offshore wind energy engineering. We do a lot of field measurements on the wind turbine, and we have a certification department. So these are the 7 areas in which we largely function, and in each of the segments we have sub activities. Like when it comes to measurements, we do power curve measurements, which is about measuring the power performance behavior of the wind turbine. We measure the noise, we measure power quality, and we measure the electrical characteristics, fault right through, which is about the capability of a wind turbine to withstand and operate in the grid whenever there is a large grid fluctuations, whether it is a low voltage or a high voltage. Your turbine has to stay connected in the grid. So that's about this measurement. And we also do load measurement, mechanical load measurements. So measuring what kind of loads are faced by the blades, main shaft, the tower, the whole structure. So like this, when it comes to measurements, you have a lot of measurement activities. And wind tunnel engineering is an area where we do a lot of activities related to anemometer classification, anemometer calibration, wind vane. And then we also have a wind tunnel where we do aerodynamic model testing. So whenever a blade designer comes with a new blade design, and that design has to be tested in a wind tunnel, so which is a laboratory test, which is a wind tunnel where you can take the airfoil of a blade into the tunnel and then do a lot of aerodynamics and aeroacoustic studies. So that's where we have we have a wind tunnel where we do this wind tunnel engineering stuff. And then technical inspection and management is inspecting wind turbines in the field. So it may be a periodic inspection, like in many countries, like what we have for automobiles, every especially for the commercial vehicles. So every 1 year or 2 year, there is a process called RC, reconditioning, and also FC for conditioning. So it is a periodic review by the authorities. Often reach to that level of maturity I would say. We don't have a concept of periodic inspection, but still we have breakdown inspections, commissioning inspections, and ownership change. When a wind farm owned by one person is sold to other person, then he appoints consultants like us to do an inspection and then study as it is how the wind turbine health is. So that is called the ownership change inspection. So such inspection services, and also technical management of wind farms. Like there is a owner of a wind farm who doesn't know technically what a wind turbine is, but still he has money and he has invested in a wind farm, and therefore they appoint people like us who manage that wind farm technically. So we are not a real operation and maintenance service guys, but we manage the wind farm technically. We are like supervisors of those wind farms. With the help of these SCADA systems, what we have supervisory control and data acquisition system, which is called as Wonder, which is again a electronics or a software tool, which is called Wonder Wind Farm Management Software. So this helps us to connect various wind turbines, whether it is from one particular company or for other company. We don't mind. We can connect any type of turbine. We just need the OPC tags from those turbine controllers, and this tool can connect all these turbines into one platform or one system. So this helps us to manage the complete asset. And the advantage of Wonder is that you can also connect solar park in this. So solar park or any renewable plant can also be connected to this tool. So as a asset owner, if you have a certain megawatt of wind and certain megawatt of solar, you can connect all this under one portfolio. So this is one area, technical inspection and management that we do. And in the field of offshore, we also do a lot of things like wind and marine engineering, safety trainings for the offshore wind farm technicians, inspections, technical verifications, and so on. And site assessment is an area where we work on wind measurements. We have to, one of the very important and basic activity in the field of wind energy harvesting is wind measurement. You need to identify the wind sites. Without identification of wind site, there is no any activity that can happen in the field of wind energy. This is the very first activity. You need to identify which is a wind site where you can have your turbine. So for that, you need to do wind measurements. So we have wind measurements, and then after measuring wind at one particular location, then we do a process called wind resource assessment. So you measure wind at one given place, and then from there you understand about the wind condition surrounding the area. So this is a place where you have a meteorological mast installed, and then you measure wind here at this given location, and after that you study for a larger area based on the terrain undulations surrounding the meteorological mast where you have measured the wind. So there you have a process called wind flow modeling. It is based on certain atmospheric physics mathematical models. We can extrapolate the wind measure from here to the surrounding areas by giving the software tool the information about the surrounding, about the terrain variations and what are the obstacles within this study area. So if you can give all these inputs, then the mathematical model can linearly extrapolate, and also vertical extrapolation is possible, so that you understand the wind condition for a larger area. So that is called as wind resource assessment. We are also an expert in this. And then we also use advanced equipments like LiDAR and SODAR for measuring the wind. So traditionally we have a tall structure like this. On top of that we have anemometers and wind vane for measuring the wind speed and wind direction. So this is called as meteorological mast. But recent time we also have LiDAR and SODAR coming into the measurement business. So we are also an expert in using LiDAR, light detection and ranging, and sound detection and ranging. So these devices are also used to measure winds without having a meteorological structure like this installed. And especially now, as the winds have gone up to 120-meter height, wind turbines, what we are installing now is about 120-meter height. So therefore, we cannot have a tall structure like this up to 120 meter and then measure. So LiDAR is a small ground mounted device which can measure winds up to 120, 150 meters. So that is the advantage of LiDAR devices. Yeah. So I think I'm in the process of explaining what WindGuard is doing, I am also trying to explain various activities of wind energy. So that is how you have to look at this. I am not just promoting WindGuard, so it is all the various activities that is happening in the field of wind energy. So coming to consulting, we do market analysis, electrical and load flow calculations, and site suitability studies, technical due diligence, consulting government departments to make necessary policies to promote wind energy or solar energy, and then doing tender and contract consulting. So this is purely a consulting business. So, and then coming to the last one, which is the certification. Here, what we do is certifying wind turbine. So, any wind turbine in the world, I can say world, because now all the countries demand for a certification. Without having a type certified wind turbine, you cannot have a grid connection or an approval to connect your wind turbine into the grid. So we have standards coming from IEC, International Electrotechnical Committee. This is a part of ISO organization. So they have IEC who lays standards for wind turbines. So there are a lot of standards starting from this 61400-01 they call it. So this is the number which pertains to wind turbine standards. So 61400-01 talks about the design requirements of wind turbine. 61400-22 talks about certification aspects of wind turbines. 61400-21 talks about power quality measurements. 12 talks about power curve measurements, power performance. Dash 13 talks about mechanical load measurements. Dash 11 talks about acoustic noise measurements. So these are all the standards based on which a wind turbine is designed, tested, and certified. So we are also an agency for that. Without certification, coming to India, I will talk about, without certification, you cannot have your turbine registered in MNRE, which is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which is the apex organization coming under Government of India, who governs the whole activity of wind energy in the country. So MNRE will approve or accept your turbine only when it is certified according to this IEC standards. So without MNRE approval, any electricity board, whether it is Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or Maharashtra, or is it a national grid coming under Power Grid Corporation of India, no authority will connect the power coming from your wind turbine without this MNRE approval, and MNRE approval looks at only the certification of this. So I think we work in all the areas of wind energy engineering, I would say. So I think this, with this, I have explained about various activities starting from wind resource assessment to how a turbine is designed, certified, and how the field activities are done. The whole gamut is covered in this. This is our Chennai office. Subject, power control. You have to really control the power of your wind turbine. So you, without controlling the power, you cannot keep on harvesting more power all the time, because your blades, your tower, your generator, your gearbox, everything is designed for capacity. So though wind is uncontrolled, it comes from nature. It can suddenly go 25-30 meters per second also, but you have to control your power output, and that is done by these mechanisms: stall, pitching, tethered hub, and yaw control. And stall is nothing but, this is quite passive in nature. As I told, you keep on doing pitching of your blades in order to harvest more power and also reduce power. Whereas this stall technology is a very primitive technology where there is no any movement like this happening. There is no pitching. It is one fixed blade angle which is fixed while installing the turbine, and that remains for 20 years of lifetime. That is the stall. And so here there is no much of control or electronics coming in. Whereas if you take the next one, which is the pitching, tethered hub, and yaw control, so this three is really controlled and governed with a strong electronic system. So pitching, as I told, this is pitching, and you have like what you have for yawing, like turning the nacelle into wind direction, you have yaw motors. Similarly, for doing pitching and the blade route, you have pitch motors. So this pitch motors are controlled by the controller. So and this helps based on the power production. It helps what degree it has to do pitching. So that is the control system. And tethered hub, the next one is tethered hub, which is nothing but changing the blade angle like this, not doing pitching like this. Instead, changing the blade, getting into wind direction, getting away from direction. So this is basically a process called coning, we call it. So when you do this coning, you try to reduce the swept area, the area of wind that you're harvesting, you try to reduce and increase it. This is called the tethered hub. So this tethered hub mechanism also needs a quite strong, robust control system. So you cannot simply do this tethering. And yaw control, as I told, changing the turbine into different wind direction to harvest more power. And also, if you want to safeguard your turbine, yaw control is quite important. You can turn it. So assume suddenly there is a cyclone going to happen the next few days, and if you want to stop the turbine and safeguard it, then what you have to do is you have to simply shut down and then turn the nacelle into opposite direction. So turn the blades away from the wind. Take the blades 180-degree opposite to the wind and then safeguard itself. So that is the yawing, which also helps to control the power, regulate the power, as well as safeguard the wind turbine during cyclonic conditions. And rotor position, you can have wind turbines either upwind type or downwind type. And coming to tower, you can have a tubular tower or a lattice tower, like a transmission electrical tower. You can have lattice tower structures. You can have pole type, guy wire, 3-leg towers. So these are different options, technologies available for selecting a tower. And rotational speed, you can have a constant speed turbine or a variable speed rotation turbine. And yaw rotation, you have driven yaw, free yaw, and fixed yaw. Generators, you have induction machines. You can use synchronous machines and doubly fed induction machines. And this is quite very primitive, I would say, but these two technologies uses huge amount of electronics in order to control the power produced by the doubly fed induction generators to harvest the power from the residual power from the rotor. You need to have a partial scale frequency converter, and in case of synchronous machines, which is a variable power coming, you have a variable AC and you make it DC, and then you make a standard 50 Hz AC power. So this conversion and inversion takes place with the help of the full scale frequency converter, which is control and electronic subject. Yeah. So I think this yesterday you might have attended a session from one of the faculty, one of the speaker, I think, who would have spoken more about the different wind electric conversion systems. As I saw the schedule, I understood there was a session on this topic. So this slide here explains the same thing, which is about different type of configurations that you can have to convert the wind power, the rotational power, into an electrical power with the help of the different conversion schemes. So the first one is a fixed speed wind turbine, where you have a rotational power coming from the rotor, and then you have a gearbox which increases the speed. As I told here, let's say you have 20 RPM here, and here you have 1500 RPM, and then this 1500 RPM is fed to the squirrel cage induction generator, and then you have a very simple thyristor based soft starter, and through that the power is delivered or connected to the step up transformer, and from the transformer it goes to the grid. And here you can see there is a capacitor bank added, because this is an induction generator. This is an inductive load that is connected to the electrical grid. And this is an inductive load. Transformer is also an inductive load, and this is also an inductive generator. So in order to reduce the pumping of huge inductance and to control it, they have this capacitor banks added, which is again mostly a static capacitor bank. They just add here in order to control the power factor and keep it close to unity. So that is a very simple system. And the next one is a limited variable speed wind turbine. Here they use, instead of a squirrel cage, they use a wound rotor induction generator. Here you can see there is an amount of small control that you can do on your generator with the help of a variable resistance that is connected to the rotor part, and the stator is connected to the thyristor and capacitor banks, which is quite similar to the first configuration like type A, but a small variable resistance is used to control the power generation of this generator. So that is, you have little bit control on your power generation in this concept, which is limited variable speed, we call it. That's the type B. And type C is where you use a gearbox, you use a wound rotor, and what we try to do is here we don't harvest this power, we just use this rotor power just to as a kind of variable resistance, and then use to control the power that is delivered by the generator or the stator. But here is the next thought. What we do is we try to convert the variable power that is harvested from the rotor into a useful power. So for that we use a partial scale frequency converter, where this variable the small AC power with a different frequency comes here, and that is converted to a standard 50 hertz power and then pumped to one coil of the transformer. One part of it has two primary coils. From the rotor power is one, and from the stator power you have another coil. So you have two primary windings and then one secondary winding that is connected to the grid. So all this conversion schemes definitely needs huge electronics. So you can imagine how to control the soft starter, and also the static capacitor banks can be a dynamic bank. So based on the power and based on the power factor, you can each time add different, you can have different steps of capacitor banks and then add at different levels based on the power delivery. And this is the next one, which is type C. And type D is highly advanced, I would say, where there is no gearbox, and this low speed RPM is directly connected to the primary to the generator, which is also a variable speed generator. So this is a squirrel cage, sorry, not squirrel cage, it's a synchronous generator. And of course you can also have an induction generator here, but mostly it is a permanent magnet synchronous generator or a wound rotor synchronous generator. So permanent magnet is highly advanced because it has huge electromotive force, and with a very small rotation of the generator shaft, you can start producing power. And as I told, it's a variable AC all the time coming out, and you need to have a full scale converter to stabilize the power and then make it 50 hertz or whatever is the grid frequency is. In countries like US, it is 60 hertz. You have to convert it to 60 hertz. In India or Asian countries, we operate at 50 hertz. So you have 50 hertz coming out from the frequency converter, and then you have the transformer and then the grid. But imagine there is a huge control system required, or a power electronic system required to precisely operate and convert this variable AC to a DC and then to a standard AC. So you have to have strong monitoring systems. You have to monitor the RPM, you have to monitor the current and voltage coming out from the generator, and what is the demand here, how much of power that the utility board wants. So keeping all this in mind, the controller takes decision and then accordingly harvests the available torque that is coming in the input shaft of the generator. So that is called as the torque controller. There is a torque controller which is connected to the main turbine controller. So it has a torque controller which really monitors how much of torque is available in the input shaft, and then how much power it can be, how much power it can harvest. So, and then so there is a torque controller. There is something called as power converter controller, and then also the blade pitching is also, as I told, there is a pitch controller. So the main controller has some kind of slave controllers, which is the torque controller, the pitch controller, and then the power converter controller. So each small controllers take certain activity, and then the main controller governs the whole thing. So yeah, so the same thing is explained here about the control system. You can see there is a main controller, and this main controller does pitch control and torque control. It controls the power production that is done by measuring the generator speed. It measures generator speed, it measures generator torque. All these are input signals: rotor speed, wind speed available, and then what is the present voltage and current that is produced by the generator, and how much it can additionally tap based on the available torque and thrust available in the drivetrain. So all these are input signals, and based on that, the controller does these functions: pitching, power regulation, yaw alignment. So all these three primary control mechanisms are governed by the main controller. So it is also the same thing. So as I told, there is a control algorithm that takes care of the operation of the whole turbine, and this takes care of the operational strategy, blade pitching, power regulation, active power limitation, reactive power set point, voltage drop, corner improvement. I think I will have to talk something different. This is something different. Deaerated mode due to wind. Derated mode. So sometimes the utility boards, they ask you to reduce the power. So because if there is no suction, if there is no load, there is no demand, then the electricity board says, instead of operating your turbine at its rated capacity of 2 megawatt, kindly operate it at 1.6 megawatt. Then you should have a control mechanism to derate the power, and then drivetrain damping, generator torque control, and then noise control algorithm, start up and shut down. How to when you want to start up the turbine, so there is a sequence in which the turbine starts and then slowly connects to the grid. So that's called the startup, and then shut down when there is sudden grid drop, or suddenly you want to stop the turbine for emergency reasons. Then again it has to undergo a slow process of slowly changing the pitch angle, and then slowly bringing down the RPM, and then after certain time, then the disc brake comes and stop to the complete halt. So there is a sequence for shutting down, and also there is a control logic written for cable twisting, because as we know, the electrical power is produced by the generator, and there is a huge amount of cable, and that comes from here and then it goes down. And this cable, it's a multi-core cable, because you can imagine 2 megawatt will have at least this much of diameter cable, and there will be like 6 or 12 cables, like this group of cables going down. And each time if the turbine is doing yawing, there will be a cable twist happening. So there will be huge amount of cable twist at this juncture. So there is a loop given for that, and beyond the loop, there is also safeties like this. There is a yaw sensor which controls the number of rotations. So there is a stop limit. It cannot do yawing beyond 2 rotations. So then if it is coming to that limit, then it automatically detects and then starts unwinding, and then brings back to the wind position. So this kind of safety related stuff is also written in the control algorithm, and this control algorithm sits in the main processor, which is in the control system or the control cabinet. So these are the different activities that the control system is doing beyond the power limitations or pitching and yawing. So this is again an important function done by the control system. Of course, this is achieved by pitching. So by doing pitching, as I told, we achieve harvesting more power in low wind speeds and controlling power in the higher wind speeds. And also the blade is rotating, and the blade is designed for a certain tip speed ratio. So the blade can harvest maximum, as I told, the coefficient of performance. Any wind turbine blade cannot produce efficiency beyond 59%. You see, as I told, the practical blade can harvest maximum efficiency to 0.45. As I told, 0.45 you see here. So it is in this range. That's the maximum harvesting which blade can achieve, and that it will achieve only at this particular tip speed ratio. So when the blade operates at a when the blade operates at this tip speed of 8 to 12 tip speed ratio, you can harvest maximum power. And this is also done by pitching. So this graph is actually fed inside in terms of a table or a lookup table. This is fed into the controller, and based on that, the main controller gives instruction to the pitch controller, and then says, okay, you pitch like this, and reduce the RPM to this level, wherein it all the time it tries to keep the CP curve, the coefficient of performance, at its maximum. So this is just the graph, but behind this there is a certain amount of electronics and control system that takes place. Without that, pitching is not there. Without pitching, you cannot do this control on power production. And again, so this is typically a power curve. So this is a power curve is wind speed versus power, X and Y graph. And this is the wind speed at which the turbine starts cutting into the grid. So the power starts producing. So this will normally be 3 meters per second. This is the minimum wind speed which is required to create an inertia to start the blade. And from there on, the power keeps ramping. And when it comes to the rated wind speed, let's say 12 meters per second, the power starts regulating up to cutout, which is like 25 meters per second. So during this 3 meters per second to 12 meters per second, there is no pitching happening, because it will be at one bottommost pitch angle, let's say 0 degree or 1 degree, which is more the flap angle, and it will harvest more power. So because it is in a safe zone of 3 to 12 meters per second, you keep on harvesting power. And then beyond 12 meters per second, so at 12, your machine achieves the rated capacity. If it is a 2 megawatt machine, at 12 meters per second, you achieve the rated power, which is 2 megawatt. After 2 megawatt, you cannot produce 2.5 or 3 megawatt, because your generator is limited to 2 megawatt. So you have to reduce the power, and that's where the pitch controller comes in. So this is the pitch controller, and this portion is the torque controller. Here you try to harvest more power, and harvest more power is nothing but harvesting more torque, more mechanical torque. So this is the torque controller that comes into picture in this wind speed region, and beyond the rated wind speed and up to cutout is the pitch control that takes place. Both torque control and pitch control is governed by the main turbine controller. Yeah, as I told, the goal of the control system is to maximize power and to operate, to keep the blade rotation in the preferred tip speed ratio, in which you can harvest more power from the blades. And this is determined by this law, Q equal to K times omega square. Omega is the angular velocity and Q is the torque. So yeah, it's the same explained in a different way. And here you can see this is the generator torque. What we try to do is from 3 meters per second, we keep on increasing the generator torque. And once you achieve the rated power of 2 megawatt, then you try to regulate the generator torque. So this is the function of the generator torque controller. And you see the pitch controller, how it functions. It tries to keep 0 degree or 1 degree pitch angle up to rated wind speed. After rated wind speed, it tries to pitch out and then try to skip the wind and harvest only what is needed and try to maintain the rated power. So you can see pitching happening after 12 meters per second. Yeah, so that's about the main turbine controller. And coming to the SCADA system, this is now, so far what we discussed is about how to control and operate one particular wind turbine with the help of the electronic systems or the control system. This is about how to control and maintain, operate several wind turbines in one wind farm. So that's where we have the supervisory control and data acquisition system. And so this is typically an architecture of how you have several turbines connected. So you have a farm level server and a software sitting on the server that connects all the OPC protocols, the communication protocols from each of these wind turbines, either through a OFC or through telemetry systems or radio waves. You can connect to one system, and there you have a software tool like Wonder I was talking about, which can understand and read the information that is coming from every single turbine controller. So this is typically a screen, a SCADA screen, where you can see a large number of wind turbines connected to one system, and here you can see every single turbine, what power is being produced, and what is the wind speed at every single location. And you can also connect the wind meteorological mast. In a wind farm, if you have several met masts, you can connect all these meteorological masts also connected to the system. Therefore, you know, okay, the whole area of wind farm, about 25 square kilometers. So this is the wind that is blowing today, and each of this turbine is producing this much of power. You want to know, you can also connect the meteorological mast in the system, and you can start, stop every single turbine sitting from one location. And so this is the supervisory system. And next to this, you have condition monitoring. So this is a bit advanced than a normal SCADA system. Here, what we do is we monitor the health of the wind turbine. So assume this is the cross section or a schematic diagram of a wind turbine. This is the main shaft here. This is the flange in front of which the hub is fixed, and then the blades are connected here. This is the blade here, and then this is the shaft, and then you have gearbox, and then again a high-speed shaft, and then the generator. And these are the tappings for the generator power, and you also have a radiator to cool the generator. Okay, so this is all the inside the system. So what we do is we keep special sensors, like on the bottom of the main shaft we have one place where we measure the acceleration or the vibration, and here we measure vibration, and in the gearbox we measure vibrations as well as the temperature of the oil which is inside the gearbox. So, and then at the main shaft power output, at the high speed power output, again we measure RPM, vibrations, we measure temperatures. So inside the generator we again measure the air gap, and then air gap temperatures, so and then RPM of the generator. So all these mechanical parameters, mainly temperature, vibration or the acceleration, and then the RPM, temperature. So these are measured at the critical components. So this normally helps to assess the health of a component. So normally there is a process, mathematical treatment called fast Fourier transformation or power spectral density, people call it, which helps to identify the natural frequency of every mechanical component. So if you keep on monitoring this natural frequencies of the component vibrations, then you can detect, okay, if there is the small crack that is being developed in the teeth of the gearbox, then you can really understand, okay, there is something going to happen, and because of that, within course of time, this gearbox has to be changed. So this can be well read in advanced situation with the help of this monitoring of the power spectral density. And in order to generate such power spectral density graphs, you need to measure these mechanical parameters: vibration, in terms of acceleration, temperature, and RPM. So at least these three are very basic. So that what we so these are measured at different locations: near the main shaft, near the gearbox. This is the gearbox area, and the generator area. So and this is the data logger, or a small data acquisition device that connects to all these sensors. And so here you can also make all these control programs which can do this assessment of the vibrational studies. So this is a bit advanced than a typical SCADA system. SCADA system, the objective is to maintain and operate, whereas condition monitoring is to go one step beyond and then monitor the health. Especially this is very important when you have wind farms spread across 25 square kilometers, or wind farms in the ocean. Then you have to really have such condition monitoring systems to monitor the health, so that you can see, okay, this particular turbine is behaving erratic in the last few days, and if it goes like this, definitely in next 1 month time I need to replace the generator or replace the gearbox, or maybe I have to do a small repair the blades. So then I can take such decisions well in advance and plan the team to do the servicing. So that's where the condition monitoring plays an important role. I think with this I will end the session. So we started with discussing on the environmental aspects, energy conservation, various renewable energies, and then wind formula for calculating wind concepts, and history, statistics. We also went through the operation of wind turbine, different wind turbine technologies available, operation, SCADA systems, condition monitoring, and how the what is the importance of electronics to control the power. And then finally we went through the recent developments happening in this field of wind energy. So with this I would like to end the session, and I'm looking forward to hear any questions which I can answer. If not now, you can also contact me in this email address, or you can put your questions to Dr. Rajin, and then I will respond to him. So thank you very much for patient hearing. Hope you enjoyed the session.
The participants, if you have doubts, kindly ask. You can use chat box also. Dear participants, a good what happened? Good exposure we got it today, especially the industrial experience. Most of the time we will not get it. Only we are as academician, we used to take only ideal wind turbine which is available in the MATLAB, and we will do something. It's a good opportunity to us. Practically, if you have any doubts, the researchers who are doing research in this area, so that you can ask some doubts to sir also. So actually, sir, I have two doubts.
Yes, please.
One is the multi-rotor wind turbine. Multi-rotor turbine in the USA, I think last couple of years they have commissioned and they have decommissioned.
Okay.
I don't know, then I thought of doing something there, but nowadays I have not seen anywhere multi-rotor of which.
Okay.
Do you have any idea about that, sir, why it is not now it is existing?
Okay. Multi-rotor or multi-blades you were talking?
Rotor, sir. One turbine, it will be like three turbines will be there.
Correct.
So,
Vestas is the company who started working on that concept. They installed one prototype in Denmark in Risø National Laboratory.
Okay.
With I think 250 kilowatts, 4 250 kilowatt machines on one structure, like a tree they have made it. It is a good concept, but I would say instead of having 4 250 kilowatt, you can have 1 megawatt with a long blade, one single rotor, because of the mechanical problems that will be created. Maybe as an experiment Vestas tried it, but mechanically if we imagine one rotor itself, it will have huge forces, because I have practically measured the bending moments on the blade root. So it will be huge load. So in one rotor itself there will be huge load, and like that each rotor, if it rotates, and there will be total big flapwise loading and rotational forces, lot of forces gets combined. So you have to have a very strong tower. But technically it is possible. That is what Vestas wanted to prove that. So they made an experiment, and they made an actual working model also. But I don't think it will be commercially that much viable. Instead we can go for because at the end of the day we also look for revenue generation. So not only just for technical pleasure, we can work on concepts. So Vestas tried it, but maybe commercially there are some challenges. So there are not much of such systems are coming up. This is my opinion. Yeah.
Then you have explained about the kite wind turbine, no?
Yeah.
So whether this kite and the airborne wind turbine are same or different?
Yeah, conceptually same, because both when I say conceptually same, we are trying to harvest wind power at a level of 300-400 meters height, because with the existing turbines you can have power harvested only at 120 meter maximum, or maybe 200 meters. For that also you need to have very strong structure. But this kite system and the airborne systems, it is based on a string, so you can leave the string around 300 meters high also. So there at that level, wind is very laminar and there is no turbulence, so you can harvest more wind power, stable power you can harvest. So KiteGen is basically harvesting based on the tension of the string, but airborne system, it produces power there itself, because there itself you have a rotating thing and the electrical power comes here. But KiteGen, it is only the string tension you are harvesting, but power generation is in the ground only. So airborne system power is harvested at the top, you bring through the cable. So KiteGen, you harvested at the down. Only tension you are harvesting from that level. Yeah.
So then one more last doubts. Regarding, you told about that high number of poles are more wind turbine.
Yeah, sway turbine. Yeah.
Normally, if we have the wind turbine, normally rotate in that 15 to 20 RPM.
Correct.
So if suppose if I need 50 hertz frequency, number of poles should be 300 poles.
Correct. Correct.
Has to count. So if that is the case, it will be the big diameter, no?
Big diameter. Yeah.
So that any other physical practical issues will be there if it is a
it is a segmental generator. 25 meters is the diameter. It will be divided into 12 or 36 parts. You can divide into n number of parts.
Okay.
So it is a segmental generator. So at the site they will assemble each and every part. Yeah.
Cost wise it is more, no? Cost wise.
No, it is still in the design stage or experimental stage. Cost will be more only, yeah. But we have to how to optimize commercially. We have to see. But I just wanted to say people are working on such new innovative ideas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any participants, any other doubts? I think you can.
Yes, sir.
Shinde.
Hello, sir.
Tell me.
Yes, sir. One question is, sir, to you related to kite generator system. In India now, if we compare the cost, installation cost of windmill and kite generator system or airborne system, so obviously windmill has a more cost. This installation cost. So in India, what is the future for next windmill generation system? Can we move towards kite generator system or airborne system? What is the possibilities?
Okay. See, honestly, I don't have any idea about the cost per megawatt in case of KiteGen, because it is a new thing coming up. So I don't know about the actual cost of that turbine, but the onshore turbine, what we normally use in the field, so that it costs around for a 2 megawatt turbine, it will be around 14 to 15 crores. That is the cost of one turbine. A 2 megawatt turbine costs around 15 crore. So what is a similar number for a KiteGen, I don't know, but definitely it will be higher because it is on the offshore. So you have to have a floating foundation on which you will have the whole system, because anything that you do into the ocean is costlier affair. Even wind turbines, the floating wind turbines are very costly in the ocean. So therefore onshore turbines are now optimized and it is quite cheap. But definitely KiteGen will help going forward, because you can harvest power at a very high level. So therefore you will harvest more power. Maybe whatever investment you put high, that will definitely benefit you. This is what I feel.
Yes, and it is a movable, flexible system.
It is a flexible system.
It is flexible system.
Yeah.
So where there is a maximum air, we can install that system.
Correct.
So
going forward, it will come. Going forward, definitely KiteGen and then airborne systems, offshore wind farms, all this will definitely come up.
So I think we have a good session today, last 2 hours continuously with a lot of experience of industry. And I hope we are also, electrical department of Sanjay Gowda University, also justifying your expectation by giving good resource person for our faculty development program. So thank you, sir, for being with us today for last 2 hours and your experience you have shared. And we hope in future also we will expect more help from your side for in this
Sure.
way technically. Moreover, especially I told 3 of the candidates from IIIT Kanchipuram, they are doing tech in mechanical engineering. So they are interested to do something wind related research. So
Okay.
further the faculty conducted and 3 people have also joined with us. So that hope they will also get in it. Whoever in electrical, mechanical, whoever may be, they got some exposure. Surely we will have many opportunities in our wind energy, as I have done some work in maximum power point tracking. Anyway, thank you, sir. On behalf of organizing committee, department, and participant, thank you so much being with us for last 2 hours, and I wish all the best for participants also. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I also thank you for this best efforts. Thank you, everyone. And whenever you have doubts, you can try to reach out to me. Thank you very much. And I have also shared my YouTube channel link. So there you can also see some interesting videos on wind energy. Like Dr. Rajin, who has also created a lot of videos on different topics of MPPT. So I also have one wind energy channel. Whoever interested, you can watch those videos.
Dear participants, the reason behind I started YouTube channel is he is also one of the motivator. From him only I have learned how to do it also. So really thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.